So let's take a look at Sushi Saga, the practice challenge here. Um, Hands up, who has given this shot, and how do we feel about this? Got a few folks. Cool, 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 cool. Um, yeah. Um, I would like just to walk through it and talk about stuff and ask questions. Uh, as usual, before we jump in, folks who have worked through it or looked at it, what kinds of things stood out to you? What kind of things got you hung up or didn't make a lot of sense or you would like to concentrate on in the next hour or so? Anyone can jump in. Only show far. Yeah. Cool. Well, I'm just gonna roll through it then and ask questions as we go. Uh, cool. And yeah, this one should be pretty close. I think it's a little bit, maybe a little bit trickier than the actual code challenge. So yeah, I think we'll have a good time here. Let me go ahead and share screen. Get everyone's face over on the other monitor. Great. Hey, look at that empty table. Cool. So this is actually let me pull over here too so we can see it. This is Sushi Saga. I've got all the servers and stuff running here. So we've got the data running on localhost. Um, yeah, yeah, there are a bunch of repeats. Yeah, people like stuff. Um, we got our data here. We've got our empty app here and our instructions here. So there's a bunch of structure already built out. Here's what we are looking to do. We're gonna, when the server loads, we're going to grab the data and put it on the page. And that means putting it, I think, up here. We're going to render 4 at a time. And so that's pretty fun. We're going to hook up this button, more sushi, that goes to the next 4. When we click the plate, it's going to eat the sushi, and we need to make money, so we're going to charge for it. And you can't eat if you don't have money. Capitalism. Great. Cool. So I think this first step should look familiar to everyone. Let's go ahead and take a look at what we have before we jump into it. So everything's tucked away in our components here. The app has the sushi container and the table. And if we pop open our components tool so we can look at what that looks like here. So we've got our sushi container. The more button is its own component and the table in there. So these are the 2 main ones in app here. Right now, there's no state or anything in there. So cool. We do have our API hooked up. That is the correct URL for that. So let's go ahead and let's grab our data first and then see where we put it second. So we're going to have some data, which means we're probably going to need to put it in state. So let's do our initial fetch here. So we want our fetch to happen only on the first page load. So we're going to put that in a use effect here. It gets imported up here. I'm going to have my function that does something, and my dependency array that's going to be empty. We get to use all the braces. So this just means that it's only going to run the first time. We're not going to worry about stuff changing. So in here is where we're going to do our stuff. We need to fetch our stuff from the API. So let's fetch our stuff from the API. We're going to do a fetch. We're going to fetch from the API. We're going to turn our, nope, not catch. We're going to do it then. We're going to turn our response into JSON. Nope. We're going to turn our response into JSON. And then we're going to pop that there. And then we're going to do something. I'm just going to console log out our data. Cool. So that's our initial fetch. Ideally, what I'd like to see here is a console log with all of our data in it. Let's see if that's what happens. Hey, look at that. 100 totally unique sushis. Cool. So we are getting the data. This is no surprise here. Let's go ahead and make a state so we can hang on to that data. So I'm going to make some constants, sushis, set sushis, sushits, sushis, and that's going to be our state. And we're going to set to an empty array because we want it to be the same shape as our data. Our data is shaped like an array. Cool. So instead of console log, we're just going to set sushis in here. So now we're not going to get our console log when we reload. But if we look in our components, we should have a state with all the sushis in there. Cool. Any questions up to this point? Hopefully y'all have done this particular thing a whole bunch of times by now. Yeah, using sushi for plural and singular. The sushi and Pokemon. I don't know why we use those because those have the problems, but cool. No initial problems here. So that's the first half properly reserved from the server. Now we're going to display it in our app. Now we need to look at what it looks like. Sushi and sush. Yeah. Yeah. Domain problems. Sushi says sushi says sushi with two eyes, maybe. Cool. Let's see what we have here. I assume we're going to put them in our sushi container. I'm just going to command click into that. Hey, look at that. Render sushi components here. So I assume that this sushi here is going to be what we're doing. Yeah. So this is a div with a bunch of stuff that we need to fill in. So I'm going to go ahead in our app. I'm going to pass in our sushi's state to our sushi container. Sushi is equal sushis, sushi, and then gonna deconstruct that up here, decompose that stuff over here, sushis, just making sure that this matches up with the key that we're putting in here. And I bet if I console log that out, it'll be there. I'm gonna trust that it's there for now. I'm gonna map through, and I'm gonna create some sushi components. So sushi, and then imported it for me. I'm gonna need a key, and I assume that's gonna be sushi.id. Double check what we've got ID, name, image underscore URL, price, and created at, which we're not worried about. So we got our key. I'm gonna pass in the sushi object itself. So the key is sushi and the value is the sushi that we're mapping over. So now we should have a bunch of blank sushi objects on there. I don't know if they look at it. Hey, look at that. We've got a whole bunch of them. Cool. So we have the sushi in there. And I bet if we look in our containers, each one's getting sushi passed in its props. Great. That's what we want to see there. So let's pop into our sushi component and pull that out of props. Sushi. And now we can put stuff in here. I'm not going to worry about the on-click right now. Holly, yeah, question.
Yeah, I was just wondering, why does the table and everything disappear when we first start rendering out these sushis?
Oh, it doesn't disappear. It's just in the middle somewhere. There it is. there's
Oh my God.
there's just
Okay.
100 of them, so they just like it's just centered. Yeah,
Okay. Thank you. That tripped me up for like 30 minutes.
yeah. Um, cool. Let's put some sushis on some plates. So we've got our sushi passed in there. We've got it in our prop. So let's go ahead and use it. Not going to worry about the on click right now. Not going to worry about this just yet. This is going to be checking the sushi eaten, but for now, I'm just going to put these stuff in. So let's put the sushi, is it image URL? Did I guess right? Image URL. I did it. Yeah. I'm going to put the name in there. And you can put the name in here. And I assume this is going to be the sushi.price. The sushi price. Cool. So I think, yeah, look at that. All our happy little sushis up there. Cool. And so that's the basics of our first requirement. Properly received, displayed in our app. Uh, Hopefully this part should be pretty straightforward for everyone. Do we have any questions about getting our data and putting it into components and mapping and all that stuff? All right. That for yeah, all the messages. Cool. Let's look at our second requirement then. Only four at a time. Great. So, um, so we don't need to worry about the sushi itself because those are displaying the way they're supposed to be displaying. Um, Sushi container, we could do that here, right? Um, but we want to kind of encapsulate it, right? Sushi container should just be responsible for doing its own thing. And its own thing is taking an array of sushis and displaying those sushis. It should not worry about how many sushis there are there, what's in them. All it says, I get a list and I render the list, and that's all I do. So that means that the responsibility for that is up here. So there are a few things we could do. I'm just going to jump to the way that I would do it. So this is the list that we're passing to the sushi container to display. So I think I would like to just pass four sushis in there. Um, and the way I would do that is by just taking a slice of that array. And I believe I can just do that with sushis.slice. Slice takes a couple of arguments. It takes the start index and the end index, I think, not the length. So I want to go from 0 to 4, I think. Let's see if that will get us the first four. Yeah, that got us the first four. Great. Um, it sounds like people struggled with this one a bit. Um, this is deceptively simple. But yeah, let's ask some questions. Azani, yeah.
Yeah, so I did actually do this in the sushi container
Hmm.
be because my thinking was the container needs all of the sushi because you're still gonna like scroll through it. Well, like when you press the like more, it still needs like the rest of the sushi. It's not just doing the four. So I
Hmm.
mean, maybe it's just like you could do it either way. Like you could
Yeah.
handle that switch up in here or the container, I guess.
Yeah, and it depends on where you want to put that control right now. I tend to think of these containers as like try to make them as simple as possible. So that's why I'm just like, all I care about is displaying whatever sushi you send me, and not putting too much logic in there, and
Right.
keeping logic out here. But if you did put that logic up here and said, cool, I'm good, you would have to then pass, well, you would have to keep track of, where you're at, all that stuff in here, which
Yeah.
is totally reasonable. Yeah, there's no reason you shouldn't. It's a rule two kind of thing, whichever makes more sense to you. Um, yeah, yeah. So you can totally do it in here if you want to. I just like making it a display only thing, but it's if it works, it works. That's all that matters. Other questions about this even? Cool. Sweet. One thing I do want to do here is I think I want to so the only numbers I like having in my code are like 0, maybe 1. And then if I have they call them magic numbers sometimes. If I have like an arbitrary number, like I want to show 4 things here, I like putting that in a constant. So I'll put it like, num sushis or something like that. There's probably a better word for that. So I'd put that in a constant. I'd set that to 4 here. That will come in handy later, maybe. We'll see. But this easily lets me see, once I get that working, I've got all my kind of things I would want to change up top here. So I'm like, oh, we want to change it to 5. I just changed my constant to 5, and we show 5 sushis instead of 4 or 3. That also works down here, but as we go forward, we'll see we're probably going to use that number more than once. Often, if you have a number sitting out in your code, you're probably going to use it more than once or want it to be changed somehow. So it's always good practice to kind of pull those out into constants. Sweet. If there are no more questions about that, let's look at our button. So clicking the more sushi button shows the next 4. And we're not going to worry about the end of the list right now. So we need to make that button do something. More button. Let's see what's in there. Hey, it's an on-click. So I think what I would like to do. So first off, we're going to need to handle click. I'm going to just put a handle click in here, and on click is going to be handle click. So that means, again, this is kind of encapsulating that all this button does is, hey, I'm a button. Send me something to do when I get clicked, and I'll do it. So we could pass in a thing here if you wanted to keep your numbers up here. I'm going to keep my numbers up here. I think there's no reason you can't keep them here, but I usually keep them here. I almost always keep them up here. Let's go ahead and see what it looks like the other way. Yeah, let's see that. So yeah, I'm gonna move this down here. And this is encapsulating in a different way, I guess, right? This is this only cares about I have a sushi container and I'm passing it my sushis. And then how it displays stuff is up to it. Totally another good way to do it. So let's see what that looks like. So that means since I'm getting sushis as a prop, props are generally read-only. So I'm not going to change the actual thing that I'm getting. I'm just going to change the way it's being displayed. And I can do that here with my slice. Slick, slice. Now slice that 0 to 4. So that means in here, I'm doing a few things to the sushi as I'm displaying it. I'm displaying my list. I'm displaying the first 4. I'm displaying the first 4 or the first number of sushis. And I'm doing the map. And again, like if I wanted to do a sorting thing here or a different kind of filter here, I'd also stack them on here. So let me check that does the same thing. Looks like it does. Great. So I'm going to pass a function down to my button here. And I think since we're doing it this way, this is a good place to put some state in here. State is describing the component, and in this case, we're describing where on the belt we are, basically. So I'm going to add some state. What do I want to call it? We'll call it sushi index, I guess. And I'll set that to 0 to start off with. So I'm keeping a state. It's just a number. And hey, look at that. I see that number is here too. I'm going to go ahead and use sushi index. I get a feeling I might use that again there too. So let's make sure that does the same thing before we get all cocky. Looks like, oh yeah, the view over here is just being slow. 0 is not iterable. Mm-hmm. Yep, that's what I want. I wanted to use the U state here instead. U state 0. There we go. That's why you always check step by step. Cool. So I've got my state here. Sushi index is starting at 0. So I'm slicing from the 0 to 4. So I'm here and pulling them out into state or constants like that. Also, in my brain at least, it makes this easier to read. Instead of just saying slice 0 to 4, that could mean anything. I don't know, just looking at that line, what that means or why I'm doing it. But if I read slice the sushi index number of sushis, that tells me, oh, I'm going to be slicing from somewhere in the array to a certain number. And so that kind of like describes more what I'm doing there. So that's nice to have. But to scroll, we're going to need to change that sushi index. We've got state, right? So we're going to need to pass a handle click in here, because that's the agreement we made when we set that up in here. So handle click is going to be a function, and I'll call it, scroll belt. Let's make that here. I'm not going to give it an argument because it's going to do the same thing every time, regardless of anything else. And I think all I need to do is, so I want to scroll it over 4, which means that I'm going to move the sushi index over 4. I don't need to change this part. So if I increase that by the number of sushis we're showing, that should show the next batch. And hey, look, I have that number there already. So I can do set sushi index. I'm going to set it to the current sushi index plus the number of sushis I'm showing. And so when I click that button, I've passed that into the handle click. It's going to run that function. We're going to set this number again. We're going to increase it by that number. Since our state changed, we're going to re-render, and we should see the next batch. And we're getting the whole array passed in. We're slicing off that. Yeah, Megan.
Do you mind just going to the more button component really quickly? I'm just curious what your handle click. Okay, it's literally just a handle click and you're passing it back. Okay, cool. Thank you.
Yeah, all that button cares about is you're giving me a function to run when you click me, and I'll do that.
Right, and that's in the sushi container.
Yeah.
Right. Okay, cool.
Yeah, so this could be console logging, alerting, changing something else. If we were keeping the index and everything up in app, it would, be calling a function up there to change something. But yeah, the button's just like, give me a function and I'll do it when you click me.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
Yeah. Again, that's a lot of big talk, so let's see what happens. Aha, could not find something with ID 7. What does that mean? Fiber. Huh. Cool. Set sushi index to that. Is it not finding sushi number 7? I don't think that's the case. Set sushi index to that. Curious. No more errors? More sushi. David, yeah.
I'm just wondering on the slice, if you're setting it the first initially 0 to 4, and then you're changing that, aren't you still at 4 to 4?
Yes, I am. There we go. I keep mixing up slice, and there's another one. I think I mix up with like substring, or maybe it's splice, where it's the start index and the length, but this one is the start index and the end index. So it was doing exactly what we were telling it to do. It was slicing from that index to 4, which gave us nothing. This is why we check. Hey, there we go. That's gonna do it. Good catch. Yeah, that's why we test stuff at every step. Cool. Yeah, so we're slicing from the sushi index to the sushi index plus the number we're showing. Just to make that a little bit clearer there. Cool. I think that satisfies our more sushi thing. This should run out at the end. It says not to worry about it. I think I'm going to worry about it. Well, I'm not gonna worry about it right now. We'll play with it later on. It's an easy fix. Any questions about this here? All right. What's next? We're halfway done already. Look at that. Cool. Clicking a sushi on a plate will eat the sushi, causing it to be removed from its plate and an empty plate to appear on the table. Great. There's a lot of stuff packed in here. Click handler. We need to click on a handler. We need to do something to our state with our sushi in it. We need to figure out some way to eat the sushi, whatever that means. And then we need to figure out how to not show it on the plate and then show a plate on the table. There's a lot of stuff packed in that little sentence. So let's do the easy part first. Let's look in our sushi here, and we've got a clicky click. So let's grab a callback. So I'm going to call this handle click, and I'm going to put a handle click here. Great. So that means we need to pass it a function. Yeah. So since we're changing the state of the sushi, we can't do it here because we're passing the sushis in. So we want to change the state of this sushi here. We can't do it directly here because props are read-only. If we just changed something in the sushi here, the state wouldn't know that it's changed and it wouldn't do anything. So let's look a level up. Similarly, we want to change something here, and we can't change it here because it's being passed down as a prop. So we have to go all the way back up here. So let's do a function again. Don't know exactly what we're going to do yet, but I know what I want it to do, so I'm going to call it that. It's going to be called eat sushi. And I'm gonna call it eat sushi here. Do I want to call it handle click? I don't know. Let's call it, yeah, eat sushi here. And so here I'm going to catch it as eat sushi. I'm going to pass it into here as handle click. That's a matter of taste, but so basically we are running this function. When it gets clicked, I'm going to console log click. And in theory now, when we click this, we should see some clicks. Great. So we've got our click handler set up at the right level here. So we need to figure out how to tell that particular sushi that it's been eaten, for starters. If we look at our data, it has a bunch of stuff. It doesn't have any eaten in there. But since JavaScript objects are pretty open, I can just throw an eaten property on there. People approach this different ways, and I've definitely seen people make another state here that's like a list of sushis that have been eaten, and then they do some figuring there. I'm just going to add the property to the sushi itself. Megan, yeah.
Whenever you're done explaining this, do you think I did it a different way, and I just want to make sure it's correct with how like the challenge will want things. So yeah, just whenever you're done explaining.
Yeah. Just holler again when
Okay, cool. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, so basically here I want to, say, change the sushi state to, which one? I don't know at this point. Let's look at what I have down here. I got sushi. Oh, sushis have IDs. Let me, instead of just directly calling handle click, let me pass the ID to handle click when I call it. I can't do that here. Sushi ID. I mean, I can do that, but that's going to call handle click, and whatever that returns is going to make my click handler. So I need to wrap this in a little function here. So now the click handler is an arrow function. When that thing is clicked, it's going to run that arrow function, and the only thing that arrow function does is call handle click with the ID of the sushi that's been passed in. Cool. Sweet. So that means in theory we should have got it here. So let's just throw that on the console log and make sure we're getting the ID of the sushi that we're clicking. 2, 4, 1. Great. Cool. So now we've got our ID. So change the sushi ID state to eaten. Great. So the way I'm going to do that is I'm going to add a dot eaten property on there, and I'll set that to true. We can't uneat it, so I'm not going to worry about flipping it back and forth like you would like if it was a like button or something. So how do I do that? I want to update the state. So I want to replace the current state with a copy of the state where everything is the same, except for this one sushi. It's going to have a new thing on it called .e. So let's slowly walk through what this looks like. I know I'm going to need to use the setter. And I know I'm going to need to work with that. So this right now will just set sushis to itself. Great. I would like to, instead of setting it to itself, set it to a copy of itself with one thing changed. There are different ways to do that. I'm going to do it with a map. And so if I want to give this a function, sushi, this will do map it to itself. Again, this is just sushis.map is going to create a new array. That new array is just going to have every sushi is itself. So, which is what I want for the most part. This is why I'm doing that. But when do I not want that to happen? I don't want that to happen when it's the one we clicked on. How do I know if it's the one that I clicked on? Sushis have IDs, so I want to do something to the one that matches the ID. So I also know when I don't want to do it, if it's not equal to the ID. And you can do it either way. I'm going to do it with a not way, just because it's easier to read here, I think. I'm going to do this in a ternary. So the question I'm asking is, does the sushi ID, nope, does the sushi ID, if it does not equal the ID that I passed in, I'm just going to return sushi. Question, sushi. Cool. So most of them, that's what's going to do. Otherwise, I'm going to do something else. What's that something else? So I want to return a copy of that sushi with something changed, which means that I'm going to need to create a new object, spread the sushi into it. So again, right now, this is just a more complicated way of saying replace it with itself, everything. We're mapping on sushis. We're saying for every sushi, if the sushi ID does not equal the ID we got, return the same thing. Otherwise, create a new thing with the same stuff in it. We want to do that. We want to add one little thing here. We want to add a property called eaten, we'll say. And eaten is going to be true. So that is a way to do it. Other ways might be, creating the array, some like creating an empty array, doing it for each, adding stuff to it like that. Map is a concise way to do it. You're going to see maps a lot in React. Yeah. Questions or clarifications I can do on this part here, because this is one of the trickier bits I think in React that we play with. Megan, yeah.
Yeah, so like the way I did it, I actually just added the ternary within the sushi component.
In here?
Yeah, and is it okay if I just show you what I did really quick? I don't want to like take up too much time, but I just want to make sure like it's for the codes or the challenge, like what they want. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I'll see what you got.
Okay. It should be quick, but so like you built it in that parent contain or component,
Mhm.
but like I just added state here in sushi, and then I did like what you did with the handle click, like set it as the opposite.
Mhm.
And then I just displayed it based on whether it was true or false. Does that work for the challenge?
Um, it will do the thing. Probably. I think, yeah. So if it works, it works. Great. That should probably satisfy the challenge.
Okay.
Were you able to get the plate stuff working?
Yeah, when I click it, they just,
Were you able to get the stack of plates on the table working?
oh no, I didn't
Uh,
see that
yeah.
one.
Yeah. So
Mm.
so again, kind of like thinking about React philosophy. With React, we want to change the data and then have the page update to reflect that data. Um, and I think it's a good intuition to want to do it on that because you're setting the state of that particular view. Maybe that's the kind of disconnect because you're not changing whether the sushi or not is eaten. You're changing whether or not that view shows that sushi, if that makes sense. And so what we
Yeah.
want to do is we want to change the data. So if another component was using that data, for example, spoiler alert, it will real soon. If another component was using that data, we want that to reflect any changes made somewhere else. So even though you're just changing that local state of that sushi display component, it doesn't change the data, which we definitely want to do. Does that make sense?
Right. Yeah. I guess I missed that part about the stacking plates, but
Yeah.
I will look through that.
Yeah,
Thanks.
we'll see that in just a second.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the second part of this here. An empty plate to appear on the table. Um, yeah, that's a great instinct to do that though. Yeah, and if that alone satisfy the requirements, that would be just fine. Cool, and we'll see how we're going to be using that soon. Other questions about how we did this, changing one thing about that? Yeah, of course. That's great question. Or pointing out. Cool. This is again something that you'll probably see relatively often. If you're doing likes or unlikes, or editing, the price of something or a blog entry or something, you're going to want to change just one part of just one thing. You're probably going to see something like this. So if this doesn't make sense, holler and we'll talk through some more. Otherwise, let's go ahead and take a look at the other parts of this. So we've eaten the sushi. We've told the sushi. Well, I don't know if that's true. Is that true? Let's see if it is. Let's look at the components. So let's look in reload so we get some fresh data. Here's sushi number 2. Sushi number 2 has sushi there. Great. I'm going to click on it and see if that adds an eaten. Hey, it did. Great. So now we know that sushi's eaten. This sushi is also eaten because I clicked on it. The sushi is not probably. Great. So we know that our data has changed. Now we need to make that view change to reflect that. And we want to do that in 2 ways. We want to remove the sushi from the plate here. We want to add a plate to the table. The first way should be easier. So let's go back to our sushi component, and we have something set up here. Tell me if that sushi has been eaten. And all this is if this thing is true, we're not going to show anything. Otherwise, we're going to show the image. Hey, we got an eaten thing. If sushi eaten. So if sushi.eaten is true, we're not going to show anything. Otherwise, we're going to show that image. Let's see if that does the trick. Oh yeah. Boom. Boom. Cool. I'm just gonna switch these around because that bothers me. Great. So if the sushi's been eaten, no. Again, we could do this in different ways. We could have another array that has stuff. We could keep track of indices that have been eaten. In my opinion and experience here, just setting a thing on the data is the easiest way to do it. And I'm lazy, so I want to do it the easiest way. So there's that. Let's talk about the table. Where's our table? There's our table. We haven't looked at the table yet. Let's see what we got here. Here's some code. So table is taking in an array. It looks like an array of plates. And what's it doing here? It's got a stack. It's putting in empty plates. Okay. What's empty plates? Empty plates is it's mapping this array. Okay. So it's mapping, it's using the index instead of the thing. And for everything, it is basically stacking a div on there that has some styling to make it look like a plate. I don't think it's required to understand how that works, but I think it's required to understand what makes it work. And I think what makes it work is this plates array. So basically, we just want the size of that plates array to be the same size as the sushis that's been eaten. So if 2 sushi has been eaten, we want to pass in a array of size 2 here. Cool. So we want to pass in plates as a prop. So what is plates going to equal? Space this in a little bit. So we've got our sushis here. We know that some sushis may have a .eaten property on them. And so we want to pass in an array to plates that is the size of our sushi's array for every one that has the eaten is true. Thoughts on what we might want to put there? Or where we might want to start? I would probably start with our data there. So if we just do that, we should have a huge stack of plates. Oops, sushis. I'm looking for a huge stack of plates. Yeah, there we go. Okay, so every single sushi gets an empty plate. We want only the plates that have eaten as true. What method do we use if we want to get a subset of an array?
That filter?
Yeah, let's filter. And so filter is going to return an array for everything where a function here equals true. So for every sushi in here, if sushi is sushi eaten. So we're just filtering on sushi eaten. If sushi eaten is true, we're going to include that in our stack. Make those go away. And hey, look at that. And so here we're using our sushi array to determine the size of that. And so this is where if we just keep local state in here, we have no way of telling that up here. So that's where we want to change our actual data to reflect that. And I think that takes care of that one, right? Remove from the plate, empty plate to appear on the table. I think that does it. Questions about this part? Thoughts? All right, let's sally forth. Money. When a sushi is eaten, we're going to charge them for it. We are going to give them some money to start off with, and that will go down as the sushi is eaten. We'll display that on the table. Let's take a look at the table. Yeah, look at that. So we need to pass in some money. I'll just pass in money here. That prop, and I'll display it here. And so again, this is a read-only prop. We're going to be passing it from somewhere else, probably from app. Let's start them off with a budget. Let's give them 100 monies to start off with. And we'll throw that in state. Use the state. And we'll start that off with budget to start off with. Cool. And now I think we just need to pass that in, right? Money equals money. That should show 100 there, and it does. So now all we need to do is, hey, we have our eat sushi function. We know the ID of a sushi that's going to get eaten. So we need to find out how much that sushi costs and subtract it from the money. And so there's a couple ways, again, I could do this. I could say, get our sushi is going to be, constant sushi is, sushi is, I could do a find where the ID equals the ID. That will give us the right one. It's a little messy though. I think what I want to do is I think I want to change what's getting passed in here. I'm just gonna take the whole object. I'm gonna call it sush, which means I need to just change that there. Sush.id. So I'm gonna pass in the whole object here instead of just the ID, which means I need to change this. I'm just gonna pass in the whole object. Yeah. I'm actually gonna reverse this. One moment. Sush.
On line 20, do you need to change sushi ID doesn't equal sush.id? Do you need to change for sushi?
I don't, because I mean I could just for clarity, but it'll work the same way because of commutative property there. Cool. So I'm passing in the sushi object. So the only thing that's changing here is I'm mapping over the sushis for each sush. If it's not equal to the sushi ID, we're going to return it. Otherwise, we're going to just print it out. So let's just verify that that still works. Cool, that looks fine. Great. I'm going to go back to the console here. So the reason I did that is because the cost lives on the sushi. So if I console log sushi price, I think it is, we should get a bunch of cool. So now all I need to do is change the price. So let's do that. And that'll be set money. I'm going to set money to money minus the sushi price. Cool. And so when we click on this, it's going to set the money. It's going to subtract the current price. When we set the money, state updates. When state updates, we re-render, which means that we get to see our new total here, hopefully. Hey, look at that. Now it can go broke. Uh-oh. Look at that. It lets us keep doing it even if it's eaten. Let's fix that. That's not a requirement, but I think it's worth fixing. So we don't want to, or is it a requirement? Yeah, it doesn't say you can't eat a sushi that's already eaten. Let's make it so you can't do that. So if not sushi eaten, just wrap all this stuff in curlies. See if that changes anything. Oop, let's reload. Cool. Now we can't eat an eaten sushi. Great. Boom, but we can still go negative. So No free meals. We can't eat sushi that exceeds the amount remaining in the balance. And this is easy. We just put our condition here. So if the sushi has not been eaten, we can eat it. Also, and we need to make sure that the sushi price is less than or equal to our remaining money. We'd also say if money is less than or equal to the price, or a couple different ways to phrase that. But yeah, we could also phrase it like if if sushi eaten and the money is wrong, then don't do it, and else do that. But I think this is a more clear way to do it, maybe. So if the sushi has not been eaten and the sushi price is less than the amount of money we have, then we're going to set the money to the money minus the price, and we're going to set the sushi to eaten. Let's see if that works. 20, boom, boom, no, 15, 5. Hey, look at that. Can we make it so it's exactly 0? 20, 10, 10, 15, 15, 20, 10. Yeah, we can do that. And then 0 doesn't work. Cool. I think that satisfies the requirement. That feels deceptively easy, and I think that's only because we set this up to make this kind of thing easy. There are different ways to do it, I think. Again, like you could make a separate array for which ones have been eaten, or a bunch of different things. And those will work. As we add more features, we can kind of get a feel for which ways that work are easier to add things to, and which ones are harder to add stuff to, harder or easier. And yeah, so a lot of this is through practice developing an intuition for which way works best. And a lot of that intuition can be built on going back to React philosophy of I've got some data, I want to display that data in a certain way, and then we'll do things to change the data and the display will update, instead of trying to, because we spent 3 weeks learning how to do stuff in vanilla JavaScript. Some of us have done that for longer before we learned React, and there's a real strong impulse to kind of force React to procedurally do a thing, and that rarely ends up being a good time for anyone. So if you feel like something's harder than it should be, kind of take a step back and say like, oh, like more than half of React kind of hangups can go back to how I'm storing my data, how I'm looking at my state, because there are easier and more difficult ways to store a state to make it easier or harder to work with. Yeah. Holly, yeah.
Sorry, would you mind just the sushi within the function eat sushi is, you said that was the object?
Yeah, so this is each sushi component here is being passed the sushi object. And so when we're clicking on it, we're just calling this function and we're passing the whole ass object back into it.
Okay.
So that's one of these.
Okay, because mine for some reason is still only the ID, even though I renamed it something, but it's just the ID still. So I'm trying to figure out what's going on
Are
there.
you passing the whole thing back into it in the sushi component?
Haha, no, thank you.
Yep. And
Can I just take a quick peek at the sushi container?
yeah.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah. Yeah, usually when I build this, I bring this functionality out into app There's no reason to have it there or here. It's just a matter of which way you feel like. If it's outside, then you just need to pass in sushi index, but there's no reason not to keep it here. Any other questions about this part? All good. Cool. Yeah, I think that takes care of everything. Bonuses, wallet, rotation. Oh yeah, let's while it's done, I'm gonna I want to work on the full rotation here. And this is it's one of those like just knowing where to hit the hammer thing. Super easy. So we are starting at a sushi index. It's just going up. What we want to do is wrap around. There's a mathematical operator called modulus or mod, and basically that is giving you the remainder. So we go up 4, 8, 12, 16, 24. Eventually we get to 100. We'll go 104, 108, 112, 116. So you want some way to turn 104 into 4. And so we could subtract that, but that breaks when we get to 200. So what we want to do is use that modulus operator. So if we say the index mod 100, that's going to give us the remainder. That'll give us our 4. We don't know what 100 is necessarily, but we do know how many things are in sushis. So we can use the length there. So we should just be able to say mod, that's the modulus operator, sushis dot length. Good. So this is basically saying, if sushi index is 100 and sushi's length, or sorry, if sushi index is 104 and sushi's length is 100, then we're going to do 4. And that'll work with any size. If I was being super picky in a bigger app, I would probably reset sushi index to something smaller, or do that in here, set sushi index. Actually, let's do it in there, because if someone keeps clicking to a billion, we don't want the index to be a billion. Let's do this. We're going to set the sushi index to the big number, mod r length. So here, when we're setting, this feels good. So when we're setting this, we're setting it. We know that sushi index will always be between 0 and the length of sushis here. This is just a little math trick. You'll definitely see that everywhere in actual programs. Let's see if it does what we want. Reload. So we're looking for Mago, Magic, and Sunday. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And the next one should be, hey, we rock back around. Cool. And we can actually see that by eating a couple and wrap around back to where we got the EDs. Should be soon. There we go. Can't go back yet. That'll be another one. Add a back button. But those sushi belts only go one way. So yeah, I'm not adding money is just adding a button to add money. We're not going to play with that. I think this is all I want to look at right now. Yeah, this exercise is a lot of stuff. I think this is good. Ask me some questions. What do we not have a handle on here? And yeah. I think you're
sorry, it must have still be up.
Oh, Eileen.
Yeah, I was just wondering if you could go back to the set money function. Okay. Oh yeah, sorry. Line 20 is what I wanted to take another look at. So you're saying if there is no key of eaten and okay, got it. Thanks.
Yeah, if the price is less than the money we have left or equal to, then spend that money.
Okay. Yeah, mine was subtracting the price of the sushi, but it was allowing me to purchase like an empty plate. So
Yeah.
we'll fix that.
Cool. Other questions? Yeah, all labs are foods. Cool. Yeah, I like this one. I think it again exercises a lot of stuff, grabbing data, iterating over it and putting it in little components everywhere, hooking up buttons that do things both on the top level and on the component level, playing with the data and altering it in like this, changing one thing in there, doing fun things with filter. Yeah, this is another one. If you play with this and get this down and understand it, you're gonna be in a good place. Cool. I think that's all I want to go over here. Any questions before we wrap it up? All right, cool. Well, I will put this video in the usual places. If you have any questions about this or anything else, throw them in the channel. Otherwise, thanks for hanging out. I'll see y'all in a little bit, and I'll find out if I'm fired or not in about half an hour. So we'll see you later.